Well, welcome officially to our second show, Dan. It's really lovely. After we built the studio, now we can actually record in it.
Thank God someone's keeping track.
God bless America. We live in the frickin' greatest country ever.
I agree.
Although, with that said...
I hear France is nice.
With that said, though, it makes a great country that allows its people to have new thoughts and build new things and build another ideal of what things were based on.
Well, that's private enterprise. That's the principle of private enterprise.
I love private enterprise.
You go do what you want to do and see how it benefits society. If it harms society, well, then we're going to have to put you away because you can't do that. But if it benefits society, you may become quite wealthy because of it.
Well,
that's
there's
private
a lot
enterprise.
But there's a lot of things that are not good for society, but are totally allowed.
Like fast food?
Well, fast food, smog, different kinds of emissions, pollution.
Well, it's like anything. We don't know that it's bad for us going in.
But when we do know it's bad for us, like the toxins, like the nuclear waste and things like that, we do know those things are bad for us.
Well, we got to have electricity, though. I mean, I know. I'm against nuclear power, and
Why?
Just because it is so dangerous. This stuff is dangerous for 100,000 years.
For 100,000 years?
Yeah.
Let's talk about nuclear power, because our dad was really one of the second men and second top whatever, something important.
Do you remember where he worked?
Yeah, Sandusky, Ohio.
What was the name of the plant?
I don't know. Sandusky. Oh,
you know why?
Sandusky nuclear power plant.
No, well, it wasn't it. It was called Davis-Besse.
Oh, Davis-Besse.
Yes. And Davis-Besse was
I do remember.
Just recently in the news. Last year was in the news.
Was it?
Because they had a major meltdown.
Really?
Well, meltdown is too strong a word. They had some violations. They had some acid dripping on a fitting, and it burned through the fitting.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think it was any big deal, but they did get in trouble with the... what's it called?
They have a regulating committee?
Yeah, it's called the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, I think that's what it's called. And they shut them down for a year, and they had to invest millions of dollars.
Where? Was it
the Davis-Besse nuclear power plant.
Is that in Sandusky, Ohio?
I forget the city. I thought it was in Toledo.
No, it's in Sandusky.
Oh, I knew it was in northern Ohio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's the same one.
Yeah, Davis-Besse nuclear power plant.
He helped build that.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He got bomb threats.
Nice.
When we lived in Lakeside.
I didn't know that. See, you know all kinds of stuff about our dad that I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't like horrible. He just...
You guys had an actual relationship.
Well,
I just stayed away from him as much as possible.
Yeah. But,
and of course, I lived with Mom for most of the time.
Yeah.
And he was dead when I was 13, so...
I think it was 14.
You were 14.
I was 15.
What month did he die?
April. I just turned 15. Oh, yeah. Right in between.
And I was still 13.
Right in between. That's right. Well, I know, that he did that kind of stuff, and I don't know really what he did. He was an electrician there, so he, I'm sure he thought he was on the cutting edge of doing something important.
Well, those types of facilities are hugely complicated and require the involvement of thousands of people. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he played a part. I'm sure he played, some part. I don't know where he was in the hierarchy, of course. You might know, but...
he was the second top man.
Well, there you go. That clears it up, doesn't it?
In 1977, I want to say.
That sounds about right. Yeah. But it's those are very dangerous places.
Well, yeah. I wonder if that played into something of him getting sick, though. Being around all that nuclear.
I think it was mostly the smoking and drinking.
Oh, the stuff he was putting inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Because those places aren't dangerous for the operators as much as...
I thought they had to wear little tags and things like that when they have too much radiation, because isn't that the fear? It's radiation. And what does radiation do to you exactly?
Makes you sick, makes your hair fall out.
In what regard?
It messes with your cells' ability to reproduce. Because within the body, your cells are reproducing all the time, mm-hmm. constantly, mm-hmm. and radiation affects it. It causes mutations. It also causes deaths of the cells. It's really bad for you. It's called radiation sickness, and it makes your hair fall out. It attacks your organs so that they can't operate correctly.
So it's not an organism.
No, it's radiation.
It's like a microwave?
No. Microwave is a type of radiation.
Uh-huh.
But the
So
material...
it's a wave of some sort?
It is a wave. It's an electromagnetic wave. Is radiation. Just like cell phones, just like microwaves, just like radio, except much stronger, much more concentrated. And it's the material itself breaking down into smaller materials. It emits energy.
Wow.
And it's heavy metals. It's either plutonium or uranium, and they're breaking down into smaller metals. I don't know what uranium breaks into, but it emits electrons, and it is radiation, and it is really bad for you. And the byproduct of producing nuclear power is nuclear waste, and that stuff stays radioactive and dangerous for tens of thousands of years. And so we're trying to figure out where to put it. And we're trying to come up with a sign that we can put on the repository that people will understand in 10,000 years.
Like, don't frickin' open this, you will die.
And will actually obey, because the signs that say, "Don't come in here, you'll die," those signs don't work.
Why? Because people just come on in anyway.
People want to know why. People are stupid, but people don't listen to signs. That's the problem. The same thing with the pharaohs. That was only 3,000 years ago. And we're talking about tens of thousands of years that this radioactive material is going to stay very dangerous.
So why can't we come up with something that actually turns it into something else rather than keeping it so alive? Why can't we, focus on the research on putting something that'll be in it that'll make it inert?
Well, you're talking about energy. You're talking about an investment of money and energy to produce something that has no payoff. Because the same is true of any industry. You're asking the industry to invest in something that has no payoff.
It would have a payoff, because then all the money that you're spending on trying to find a place to put it would go towards the research, and then you would know.
They're going to put it in a hole in the ground.
I know, but that hole in the ground is not safe from humanity.
That's my point. The hole in the ground ain't safe.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
We can't really have nuclear power because the waste is too dangerous.
But we do.
We do have it, but we can't really use it because it's too darn dangerous. And also,
don't we use it?
We do. And France actually produces a great deal of their energy from nuclear power. I think they're up around 50 or 60%.
Right. So wouldn't it be?
We produce less than 20.
Wouldn't it be advantageous for somebody to invent something like that?
Where's the money? Where's the payoff? Where's the reward?
You have to buy this to put it in. That's a business.
You're talking about regulation. Then you're talking about
But it's regulating
Congress passing a law saying that you have to manage your own waste.
Well, of course. Don't they have to manage their own waste? They should have to. It's their business, and that's part of the in and the out. And everybody has to be responsible, whether it's a corporation or personal or a person, or everybody has to take responsibility for what they're producing.
But you drive a car, and you don't manage the waste from that vehicle.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
I have to pay somebody to manage the waste.
You have to pay somebody.
Right.
Right.
So it's the same diff. I pay somebody to manage that.
Where does the money come from to regulate the industry? It comes from the consumer. And if the consumer costs are too great, then the industry suffers. This is true of any industry.
Any industry, though. That's called private industry. Isn't that how we started this conversation?
It is, but we don't really have private enterprise. We have tremendous amounts of government regulation, because private enterprise doesn't look long-term. It looks short-term. And
maybe we can come up with something that would look long-term, that could be private enterprise, that we could incorporate, that we could create a new way of looking at things.
You're talking about responsibility again.
Personal responsibility, as well as corporate responsibility, as well as partnership responsibility.
And people and corporations are not noted for being responsible.
I know, but isn't that what we have to really change?
I agree with you. Should we pray?
Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya. Hold hands, everybody. There's a lighted campfire right in front of us. We're going to toast some marshmallows now.
We're going to put on our sundresses and skip around the campfire.
Kumbaya.
I mean, this is the problem.
Don't break the chain, Dan.
Don't break the chain. It's my fault. Yeah, it's me, isn't it? If it wasn't for me, you'd be home by now.
Just click your heels 3 times.
That's what I always say in traffic when somebody's tailgating me. You know, sure, there's the cars are packed in front of us, but hey, if it wasn't for me, you'd be home by now.
You have some pretty good philosophy on the road, I'd say that.
You just have to relax a little bit. You have to recognize that, you know, getting upset at the crowds, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to hurt you. And for the most part, you know, we're pretty comfortable. We got air conditioning. We got radio.
We live in America.
We have a great country.
Our country is great, and it's the people that make up the country. And half of the people, or 80% of the people, are just really apathetic, I think, to what is really going on, because they're just scurrying day by day just to make it through each day, to get up and get the kids to school and be able to get to work and make enough money so they can pay their rent, and everybody's working and everybody's going to school, and we're all just so very, very little busy little bees.
You're talking about short-term, immediate needs.
Yeah, that must be met before we can go to the long term, and it's taken me a long time to even figure out for myself. Right. I'm on that little rat race still myself, so I totally understand.
We all are. I mean, that's the nature of humanity. Is we think short term. We want what we want it now, and tomorrow is uncertain. And we're prisoners of our own head, and we're on this roller coaster of our own emotions, instead of looking at the larger picture and trying to understand what's right and what's important in the long term and doing the things that serve those ends. We think about what suits us. And frankly, that's human nature. It's human nature to be selfish.
Nice.
It's not a pretty picture. But I don't know what we can do about it except to educate people. And to make people accountable. I was just reading about this Wall Street scandal, and one of the guys, he was an investment banker, and he helped with. I'm not even sure what he's being accused of. His name was Quattrone, and he was a banker for the IPOs, which are the initial public offerings. And in the year 2001. He made $180 million. This one man made $180 million in this 1 year alone. But his behavior was criminal. His behavior was illegal. He wasn't doing things by the book, by the Securities and Exchange Commission rules. But he really did benefit economically. And there's a lot of that going on. The expression is that a man with a briefcase can always steal more than a man with a gun. So you want to put this bank robber away who stole $3,000, but this guy that made $100 million in a year ripping off old people's pensions, you know, he's going to do 2 years, and because it's white collar crime. You know, this comes down to responsibility, and this also comes down to your principle of karma, which I don't know what it means. I'd like you to explain it to me, and then I'd like you to defend it. Which comes back to what we were talking about earlier. But you also, when Rico started talking about karma, and you said, "Uh-oh, here comes Dan," as if I was going to attack him. That was my point.
I thought we decided that we weren't going. Oh, okay.
You know, you're used to being in charge at work. So am I. I pretty much make up my own rules. And
how
I do.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's a good life. I mean, I have my responsibilities.
I don't get to make up my own rules. My rules are...
You do, for the most part. You serve other people.
That's all I do.
But you do it...
Yes, may I be of service to you,
But you do it in a way
please?
that suits you. You could do it much poorly if you chose to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Much.
But you take your responsibilities seriously.
Because I am a firm believer in personal responsibility. That's why. And that's why I think that everybody should live that way. But I also know that the reason why I've been able to even have these thoughts is because I live in America. I live in a place where we are considered free. We're not all free of everything. We have our own demons and our own traps and our own walls and the things that are given to us or passed down.
And we have our own rules as a society. We have to behave a certain way. There's a certain expectation of us to behave this way. Or society puts us away. And frankly, rightly so. I mean, law is an attempt to codify morality.
Okay.
What were we talking about a minute ago? We were talking about responsibility.
Yep.
We were talking about stepping up.
Yep.
And we're talking about how that relates to our behavior in the world, and how it doesn't really... People are not often rewarded for responsibility.
Oh, no, it's much harder.
They're rewarded for irresponsibility.
That's true. I don't know if they're rewarded for irresponsibility. They're just, if they're not caught, then we're rewarded. If people think a certain thing or about you, or if you're able to, deceive them in a certain way, if you're able to manipulate the situation, that's what's rewarded. If you're able to come off as one way and you're really another, those are the things that are rewarded. Because if you truly are yourself and you're yourself, and if you're bad, you're not going to be rewarded for that directly. You wouldn't. Not if we lived in...
But you may be in the short term.
You are in the short term here now, because it's trickery, though, because they show one face, they say one thing and do another. So it's not being real.
But so they get rewarded in the short term. Yeah. And then they move on to another victim once they're exposed.
Yes.
And so they move on to another victim, and then again they're rewarded in the short term. This is part of the problem with short-term thinking. And frankly, it's pervasive. It's not just you and me. It's worldwide. It also operates in corporations. Any organization that is the product of human behavior is going to carry aspects of human qualities. That's why government organizations and corporations, they all have elements that parallel human qualities, which is a desire not to be found out for being,
somebody horrible,
incompetent, or horrible, certainly. And short-term thinking, corporations do that now with their stock pricing. It's about how can I manipulate the stock so that I look good to the investors.
Right.
Whereas...
That's what all the game shows are. I mean, I'm sorry. It's called reality television.
Reality television.
But I call them game shows because they're all game shows. They're set up as a game with real people, but still they're set up as a game. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. There's going to be some kind of competition.
It's manufactured drama. It's the drama of human life. But it's manufactured for television. It's manufactured for to get ratings. And it's the drama that appeals to people. It's not the right and wrong. It's not the justice.
Why did that leave? How did that leave us, though? Did we not always want to have justice? Real justice?
Well, I think it's an elusive thing. We pursue it, but it only shows itself in the negative. You only hear about people who are being unjust. You don't hear about the thousands of millions of people who go about their lives every day thinking of what's right and trying to do what's right. That doesn't make the news. What makes the news is murderers and rapists and bank robbers and bombings and that sort of thing. That makes the news. And people come to believe that that's all there is, and that somehow the world is going to hell, when really it's been this way the whole time. It's always been this way. There's always been murders and killing and rapes and there's been bank robberies for as long as there have been banks. There's been train robberies, when there was trains. There's always been bad people in the world, and so it's always been this way. And I made that point with Rico last week. He talked about being in Europe and he didn't hear about all the crimes. Well, it's because you weren't seeking the information, for one, and the media don't report it as much, for two. So it's a matter of what you become aware of. It's a matter of what you seek out as far as information, because I can't give you information if you're not looking for it. And unless you're looking for it, then you've shirked your responsibility to educate yourself. And again, we come back to responsibility, because at some point, whether it's junior high or high school, it's no longer people pushing us to learn. You have to seek knowledge for yourself. And
I'm definitely a truth seeker. I know that. But truth is very elusive.
It's a slippery pig.
It's a slippery pig.
Truth is a slippery pig.
Because you find out a little bit, and then you think you know, And then you find out a little more, and then,
suddenly what you thought you knew isn't so clear.
And now it's a little more clear. And it's like, then there's another thing.
Right. And you have to stay open to new information. That's the nature of truth. It's the nature of science, to continue to seek information. And ultimately that is the pursuit of science, is truth, in whatever form it may take. And that's why science is a self-correcting mechanism. They call it peer review, which is where you come up with an idea, and then you got to submit your information, your documents, and your testing, and your experimentation, and your ideas, and your hypotheses. You have to submit it to hundreds of other people who will pick it apart and try and find out what's wrong with it, and try and find out where you may have gone wrong in your experimentation. I was just reading an article yesterday in a science magazine about the pursuit of science and how it's often confused, even in high school and college. They treat science as if it's a body of knowledge, and it's not. Science is a method. Science is a design to seek knowledge, to pursue knowledge, and a method of acquiring knowledge. And really that's what it comes down to. And it's easy to be certain about things until you gain more information that undermines your certainty. But you have to be willing to incorporate that new information. So even at 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old, you have to be willing to review your own judgment. Otherwise, you're just being stubborn. And stubborn doesn't win. It doesn't work like that. You know, the expression is that no battle plan ever survived contact with the enemy.
What?
No battle plan ever survived contact with the enemy. As soon as you engage the enemy, the circumstances upon which you base that battle plan have changed. And that's a metaphor for life. As soon as you start doing something, you gotta be flexible. Because if the circumstances have changed, that's the real issue, is if. If the circumstances haven't changed, that's why I find so odd all these people who are so worked up about, us not having a plan for post battle in Iraq. Well, we did have a plan, but the circumstances changed dramatically because we didn't get a refugee crisis. The fighting turned out to be much easier than we expected. They talk about the mistake of disbanding the army. Well, we didn't disband the army. The army disbanded itself. People took off their uniforms and went home. So, now we have to look at the circumstances. The military calls it facts on the ground. And I like that metaphor. You have to deal with what actually is. You do it constantly in your job. And so do I. You can have an idea of what you're going to do, but you have to be flexible to new information. And you get new information constantly. And so do I. I had a job I was supposed to do on Friday. I went to one job site, and they had an emergency. I had to stay there and fix that. And suddenly I couldn't do the rest of my job, so now I have to do that Monday. But that's life. That's how life is. You manage emergencies. You're putting out fires.
How do we get back to relaxing a little bit and having a siesta after we eat lunch or something? That's what I want to know. I want to know how we get back to being 5, so we can take a little nap.
Well, I found if I nap in the afternoon, I don't sleep so well at night, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I wasn't sleeping very well, so then I was tired all day.
Really?
Yeah. So I found a nap in the afternoon, the opposite effect on me.
I never have the opportunity. It just sounds really good.
It does sound great. I'd like to sleep when I'm tired and eat when I'm hungry and work when I feel like it. But that's not how life is, We've developed a society where we have to work, so many hours, and we receive paychecks for that, and then we have to, and then we purchase goods and services with that money that we earn, and I don't think that's. I think it's a vast improvement over having to hunt our food and grow,
oh my God.
grow our own food.
We're very, very lucky. We're very blessed in many, many ways. And then there's always that more thing that you want. You want something more. You want something better. Like for me, I look at I want things better for everybody. I want life better. I don't want to have 2 people work. I wish that motherhood was more reverent. It was, placed with more importance. Being a parent would be placed with more importance as well. Just personal responsibility again for everybody, just really looking at what I do matters to the community, to my family, then it makes a difference. I would just like to see those values come back. I just wonder if we can restructure our society to incorporate those values again.
Well, I don't know what you mean by restructure. I don't think it's ever been that way. I mean, I think the country was founded, this country specifically, was founded on the principles of justice and equality. But those are elusive goals. And, it's a balancing act between trying to between trying to do what's right and also satisfying my own needs. I mean, I'm not going to put food in someone else's mouth before I put it in my own. So unless I'm fed, that's the only time I can concern myself with other people's needs.
Right.
Is once I'm fed.
Right.
That's human nature. If I'm hungry, I eat. And I'm not going to feed you unless there is altruism in the world. I mean, there are times when you do that. You take care of the helpless. And Jesus was spoke a great deal of tremendous philosophy, and all religions do. All religions preach equality and justice and peace on earth. There are many people in the world who distort those principles and they use them to justify their own means, their own ends, even to the point of killing people. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Christians were killing people because they were accused of being witches, so I don't find it that odd that some radical Islamists are doing it now. There's even branches of Buddhism where they're fighting each other. They're battling over control of who's
spiritually correct?
What do you call your churches? Temples. You call them temples. They're they're killing each other over control of the temples. Buddhists.
Seems bizarre.
It is. It's very bizarre, but it's human nature. Human nature.
Why is that human nature? Why is human nature so
selfish?
Mean to each other?
It's self-involved. It's self-important and self-involved. We talked about this before. If I kill you, I live.
I hate that part.
And I reproduce.
Will you please not kill me?
I won't.
Okay.
But
someone else might?
But I could.
Damn.
Don't get me wrong.
If you haven't killed me yet.
Don't cross me.
If you cross me, Missy, you're in trouble.
And I was watching a nature show just the other day, and it was about sex. The show was about animals having sex, and really the dominant organisms in any species are the ones that reproduce, and that's true of humanity as well. So it is about domination.
I guess we haven't been very dominant in our lives.
Well, I haven't reproduced.
I haven't either.
But there are other aspects. It's not just about domination, because the capacity for reproduction is so vast in the human species that we're about the only animal that is fertile 12 months out of the year. I don't know if you knew that or not, but most other animals, they're only fertile a few weeks sometimes out of the year. But humans, 365 days, and but that's not true of an individual, man or woman, but it's true of the species. There is no limit. The technical term is promiscuous, and I use that in the scientific sense, which means I don't use it in the moral sense, that somehow you've committed a sin by being with a lot of people. That's not what I mean. I mean in the scientific sense, where you can reproduce anytime, anywhere, with just about anybody. That's promiscuous to me. And that's really what it's about. I mean, nature made sex feel good so that we'll do it.
And it does feel good.
And we do it.
And we do it, because it is feeling good. It is a good feeling.
But the goal of nature is to reproduce. Mm-hmm. So it feels good for everybody.
So when you don't reproduce, what happens? Do you all of a sudden lose your goal as a human being? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not black and white. There's a lot of different reasons.
Thank goodness.
There's a lot of different reasons for not reproducing, and one of them is just not having the opportunity. And the others are sickness. Things happen. Other priorities. Sometimes if I'm hungry, I'm not really thinking about sex. And so there are circumstances where basic survival is a greater priority than reproducing. I have to satisfy certain needs. Abraham Maslow calls it the hierarchy. The hierarchy.
The hierarchy.
The hierarchy of needs.
The hierarchy.
You have certain needs that must be met before you can move to higher needs.
That's Maslow.
That's Maslow, Abraham Maslow. And the basic one is food and shelter. And then community and family. And at the very top of the hierarchy is self. Oh shoot! What's the word? I want to say
self-realization.
Self-realization.
Self-actualization.
Actualization. That's the word he uses.
Self-actualization,
which is to become all that you can be. You know, in terms of your emotional and intellectual awareness. And really, that's what's so amazing about humanity is its ability to pass on information.
We have that ability quite well. We are doing it right now as we speak.
It's really amazing.
And our technology is just even freaking amazing.
Even just the written word is so amazing, and public schools are so amazing. You know, and I just saw a piece this morning on Iraqi public schools. Under Saddam, the teachers had to preach Saddam's message. They had to call Saddam this and Saddam that, and their textbooks were full of references to him. Now the teachers can teach anything they want. The people can say anything they want. We bought them all new textbooks. Little girls talking about how these American soldiers just came and cleaned up their school. They put in a new bathroom, and they painted the walls and made it pretty. This little girl is thanking God for the American soldier to come and clean up her school. And she was wearing a little blue and white uniform.
You don't think that's propaganda?
Of course it's propaganda.
Oh, okay, just checking.
But just because it's propaganda doesn't mean it's not true.
And nice.
And nice and wonderful.
And part of why we're Americans.
And the reason why
and
we're
why
there.
we are Americans and why we are proud of that.
And why we're there. You know, it was a brief piece on Fox News called Why We're There. I think that was called, or What's Happening Now or something. It was a brief piece. But, you know, we're talking about repairing their electrical system, repairing their water systems, setting up their phones. There's 340,000 cell phone users, and they're not being monitored anymore. They used to be, their phones were monitored.
What does that mean?
That means Saddam and his henchmen were listening.
Oh.
They're not listening anymore. This one Iraqi is speaking English. He says, I can say anything I want now. It's great.
Makes a big difference when you can say anything you want. I mean, we're not regulated by the FCC on the internet, so we can say anything we want as well. Although we are regulated, in our
by
airwaves.
the FCC, you can still say
a lot of things.
Pretty
you can
much
still say your
what
opinions.
You feel. You can
not necessarily. That's not true.
You just can't use swear words.
But sometimes that's how people communicate with how they feel or what's going on, because there are only certain words that mean certain things, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and they have a certain vibrational field that comes with that word. So,
there are substitutes to get your point across, but my point is that you can make your point. You can criticize the government. You can call the president a jerk. You can flat out call him a liar. In fact, Ted Kennedy is. First of all, is his name Edward or Ted? I don't really know.
Well, why? What made you say that he's a liar? What did he lie about?
Well, Ted Kennedy has called Bush a liar, flat out. He's called him a liar.
Oh.
And he pretty much called him a murderer for sending our troops into Iraq. And, Ted Kennedy has a right to his opinion. And that's what makes this country great, is that people have a right to their opinion. They have a right to express it. They have a right to express themselves.
Isn't that great?
It is. It really is great. And it's part of what makes this country strong. And it is founded on some really basic principles. And we have a responsibility to spread that message.
We do. And I wish that I had my song out. It's called Such a Great Day. Because I want to sing my song and wrap the show up.
I know let's do.
Let's do.
Sing a song.
Let's sing a song. Not my song, but a song.
Not just any song.
No, my song called Such a Great Day.
I don't know that song.
It's such a great day. It's such a great day.
Is that Mr. Rogers?
It's very similar to Mr. Rogers.
It sure sounds like Mr. Rogers.
But it is not Mr. Rogers. It's a totally different tempo and different words.
Have we devolved into American Idol all of a sudden? Do I get to vote you off if I don't like your performance?
No. No.
You've got to be the worst singer on earth. No, Simon, I'm not. Thank you, though.
No, thanks.
Look, you're the ones that are putting me on television, okay? I don't know what you're giving me a hard time for.
Well, because they're putting them on television, because the ratings, because they have to see some of the bad stuff. That's really sad when somebody's really bad, though, and they are making it. But they're making it because they're so bad that they're good all of a sudden. I don't get that one. Sorry. Well, but that's amazing to me that there are some people.
It's part of human nature to find a thrill in other people's suffering.
But they're not suffering.
The Germans even have a word for it. It's called Schadenfreude. And it is taking joy in other people's pain. Of course the Germans came up with a word for that. But it's a vicarious thrill in seeing other people suffer, and bullies are the same way, just like a bully on the playground or a bully in the corporate office. They get a thrill out of knowing that they control other people. It's an exchange
of energy. They get to exchange the energy.
They get to impose their will on other people. It makes them feel like a big shot.
I was shaking my head. That's usually not a good way to answer on the radio. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. What else should we talk about?
No, I think that we should just wrap the show for today and say it's such a great day, and we're such a great country, and we're blessed to be Americans. We're blessed to be in America, and to be able to think the things that we think, and to be able to produce the things that we're producing, and being able to talk about
have what we have and do what we do, and we have such freedom, and with freedom comes responsibility.
I believe the more responsible you are, the better and happier your life is going to be here. That's what I have found for myself, because the more responsible I am for myself and my actions and what I do and what I don't do, that creates happiness, or a better world for me first, my microcosmic, then to my macrocosmic.
Well, you have a real and legitimate concern for the welfare of other people.
I do. How come most people don't? That's the other thing. I just don't get it. I don't know that's part of my examination to find out.
I don't know that most people don't.
A lot.
I do know that a lot of people are concerned about their own welfare.
Yeah, and just have zero compassion for anybody else.
And have very little compassion. They're just not taught that. And that's one of the reasons I think we're here. You and I are here, and you and I are doing this, is to spread that message that we can make the world a better place by being in it. And that's what I want to do. As I want to educate people, I want to hold people accountable for their behavior, make them understand the difference between right and wrong. A lot of people don't understand that anymore. It's not taught, and it's not part of our curriculum in school. I don't want to put the 10 Commandments in school. That's not what I'm recommending. I am recommending parental responsibility in raising their children in a way that teaches them right from wrong. But the parents first have to learn right and wrong. The parents first have to put themselves in a place where they can teach. But in order to teach something, you have to be superior to it. And when you get all...
Wow, sometimes I don't know, though, that nobody would teach. Nobody would teach if they had to be superior to it.
Well, it comes back to responsibility. It comes back to accepting your own responsibility for the effect that your behavior and your words have on the world. And if you want to call that vibrations, then so be it. But I call it the effect on other people, the physical and emotional and mental effect on other people, that are involved in your life, that are affected by you and your behavior. And that's one of the things I respect so much about Dr. Phil. And even he talks about it. He talks about using the medium of television in the most responsible and most noble way, which is to help people, which is not what Jerry Springer is doing. But he still got good ratings. At one point, Jerry Springer had better ratings than Oprah. Of course, he wasn't making as much money because he didn't have as big as sponsors. But his ratings were a little bit better. Judge Judy, I just read this. I hope I'm quoting it right. She made $15 to $20 million last year. This is a television judge, whereas the real judge, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, works on the Supreme Court. She only made $150,000. Which is all messed up, but that's the marketplace of television. That's where all the sports money is coming from. That's where all the television, that's where all the...
sponsorship. It's because it's the commercials, because it's the products of the consumers that they're trying to reach to buy things.
Billions and billions of dollars are changing.
It's all that whole rat race.
And I'd like a little piece of that.
Yeah. Come on, sponsors. Come on. We love sponsors.
Just a little piece of that.
We love sponsors. I love sponsors.
Brought to you by I'm just kidding. That's one of the boner pills.
Oh, I was going to say, they didn't give us any money. Don't be talking about them. Now we need to go to the corporate office and ask them to give us some money. Excuse me, we used your name. We used your product name in our show. Now, can you please give us some money? They might, actually. That might be one place that we'll have to go look.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So,
brought to you by
stop mentioning products that don't sponsor us. Stop it right now.
I feel like getting a pizza. Just
that's
kidding.
Okay because that's very generic.
I don't. Yeah, you don't want to go to.
Didn't say what.
Oh, too late.
Oh, you are not supposed to say what company. We're sorry, other sponsors.
Well, now I know.
We're sorry he's not mentioned your names and mentioned the people who haven't given us money yet. We're sorry.
Call us and we will.
Yeah. So, have a great one, Dan.
Well, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you, too.
To my dear departed mother.
Happy Mother's Day to my dear departed mother, too.
And see you soon.
Okay. See you next week.
Okay.
Bye.